Hello and welcome to another Overlord lore and theory video, and today we are going to take a closer look at the final part of my little What If Ainz Ooal Gone Alongside His Great Tomb Would Just Disappear video series. And in this part, we will take a closer look at how the Theocracy of Slane would react to the sudden lack of Sorcerer King within the Sorcerer Kingdom. But before we are going to do any of this, let me quickly thank my Patreons for their great and generous support, as well as all users of the YouTube thanks function for making one-time donations. And now with that said, let's take a closer look at Slane's outlook on the changed geopolitical landscape. And first and foremost, they would still be furious about Jerknif's betrayal, for he is still seen as a traitor to humanity in the eyes of the religious zealots of Slane. And not only that he betrayed humanity and life itself, he betrayed it for an undead heteromorph, something that they would be absolutely disgusted with. On the other hand, Slane can be very pragmatic, such for example as asking Jerknif if Gog'Jin, the war troll, would actually fight for humanity in any upcoming war. This was rooted in pure pragmatic consideration of throwing everything against Ainz that was available, even if they had to use the demi-humans they so despise. And while there is a good chance that Jerknif would be assassinated by Alpharios and Omegon, over here, something that only perhaps Sluderperidane and his supposed Elder or Night Lich form could prevent, I think it would be highly unlikely that Slane would risk further political destabilization in the region. His undead creations disappeared, and anarchy and chaos just barely averted by Henry the Bloody. Any stress on the now frail political cohesion might lead to a civil war within the Sorcerer Kingdom, and again without the Sorcerer King and the undead controlling everything. With two humans, namely Henry and Jerknif, in charge, Slane would likely not try to destroy the Sorcerer Kingdom since Ainz is all gone, simply because it's now a majority human nation run by two humans. And the reason for this is not so much rooted in the love for the state, that now has a significant number of demi-humans and heteromorphs within its ranks and borders, but again rooted in sheer pragmatism. Because the Holy Kingdom, for example, is now ruled by an even bigger bunch of religious zealots, headed by Nea Baraya, worshipping the undead, but they are also too still human, a cult which now has spread into the Sorcerer Kingdom, and therefore I believe that the death god worshippers of Slane might try to spin this undead cult to their own advantage via a disinformation campaign and via religious fervorers of their very own, trying to wage a war for the minds of the people, instead of launching a military campaign to take their heads. Again, Riestais is barely alive, with only Marquis Raven and some of his domain, namely Elibera, being unscathed by the war. The Empire and the fortress city of Ivantel thus would suffer massive casualties and loss of human life if a war would happen, and the Dragon Kingdom is now besieged by a beastman army that is now happily tearing through the lines and the cities of the human nation. So Slane's forces are needed desperately on another battlefield, and any further conflict within humanity would likely severely diminish its own potential to survive in this world. So pursuing a strategy of war against Nea's paladins, the demi-humans of Rebellion, the Imperial legions under Jerknif, the even more powerful Sluderperidane, and most importantly, the powerful goblin army under Henry the Bloody, would likely exhaust what military potential Slane has left. For they just recently had to send their mobilized army deep into the dangerous and monster-filled forest of Ivasha, leaving them with a certain number of casualties. Zashi is still gone since she too was in the Great Tomb of Nezwick, and Ainz destroyed the Sunlight Scripture nearly completely, while the Holocaust Scripture of Slane had been decimated by the Elf King. So the Black Scripture lost Zashi. 2 out of 6 scriptures are combat ineffective, and the military has now been weakened from the campaign in Ivasha. And with Suranon still unaccounted for, Slane would likely try to bring Jerknov back into the fold, perhaps by putting him under a spell in order to make him say the truth, thus learning that Jerknov really was outmaneuvered and only surrendered to Ainz once Slane itself had abandoned him and left him without any support. This would also make the Theocracy partially responsible for Jerknov's capitulation and prove that Jerknov fought until resistance was no longer feasible. This might finally sway the higher-ups of the Theocracy, e.g. the Cardinals, the military and the Pontifex, not to try to reconquer, for example, the kingdom, and focus on the most pressing problem at hand, with the aid of Jerknov and the Sorcerer Kingdom. For without the support of Nezubik and the Sorcerer King, the lines of the Dragon Kingdom would be broken again, this time not by a beastman army looking for food, but by a vengeful horde of demi-humans looking for revenge. So the war would be total, and with the Dragon Kingdom spent, it would be only a question of time when the beastmen are done with it, and thus being able to threaten Slane and the Empire, the only two major human regions at this point left. Directly. Hence why, at least in my opinion, a combined army would be created. But with the other Godkin taking over Zeshi's guard duty, perhaps Fluda Paradane would have to act as the leader for them, or rather as their strongest member, employed as the boss killer, so to speak. And as an undead worshipping cult, the Black Scripture should be the only scripture more or less fine with this, as long as they have the blessing of Rufus, their own undead lord, who was also the first follower of Storshana, their very own god of death. And with the Elf Kingdom's military potential being spent, and them being desperate for peace, Slane could solely focus on the threat right in front of them, thus using some elite units of the military, along with some volunteers, to create a couple of thousand-man strong army. It would be further bolstered with retired Black and Sunlight Scripture members, and of course, with the proper Black Scripture, and then sent to meet up with the army of Jerknov's Sorcerer Kingdom. For as a price for peace, Jerknov would also need to contribute to the defense of the Dragon Kingdom. The now state-owned Adventurer Guild would be used to recruit or simply conscript adventurers as vanguard and infiltration units. 3 Imperial Legions would form the core of the army that the Sorcerer Kingdom would send. It would also be further strengthened by recruited demi-humans and heteromorphs from all over the Sorcerer Kingdom, meaning from the Balian Hills, over Irantel, all the way up to the Lizardman settlement. Troops would be arriving, and Sarayusu would also be promoted to general at this point in time, and lead maybe his 50 elite Lizardman warriors, along with the demi-human and the heteromorph army parts. But the biggest contribution in terms of demi-human forces would of course be Enri's own army, or at least a part of it. The bombardment squad, the military strategist, some assassins and redcap units would be joining the fight, alongside at least 1,000 regular warriors. Finally, Irantel's considerable population would also have some viable candidates for military service within it, and therefore a further 1,000 men should be raised. The Dragon Kingdom now would evacuate its population and retreat to the more defensible positions to its western side, high within the mountains. And these fortresses and defenses would be then organized and manned by Slane Scriptures and fanatical zealots as a shield of humankind in defense of their arch-enemy, and thanks to their fervor, it is very unlikely that these units would break in the face of a demi-human threat. And a legion would also be present to defend major strong and choke points, so the Beastman army, now used to easy victories, would be stopped by this defense line. But the actual main army would then focus itself on the northernmost part of the invading Beastman army, massing its forces, in order to take out the northernmost Beastman units with their numerical might. The bombardment squad in combination with Fluda Paradane, his Death Knight, and the actions of the Black Scripture, supported by paladins and goblin wolf riders, would send them running, while the Legion and the troops of Slane would hold the line. Once the enemy armies on the run, the Death Knight and his squire zombies would also have now created round about 1,000 undead out of the slain beastmen, that now could be sent into the beastman kingdom, thus preventing reinforcement being sent to the other armies. And with the undead army covering the flank, the main force could now march south, attacking the beastman legions, when they are in the middle of a siege, and therefore extremely vulnerable. The goal would be to send the units running towards the sea, where they then could be cornered and crushed, and the lizardmen being able to swim, and likely having brought the Hydra, the beastman losses would be considerable. But on the advice of the goblin strategist, the beastmen would then be given a way out by retreating to their own kingdom, not knowing that the red-capped goblins, assassins, alongside with assassins from Yanjia, the Black Scripture members, and Fluda Paradane, with some stealthy demi-humans, would be in their ambush position already, only waiting to surprise the already fleeing army and inflict even graver losses. The few survivors who would make it back would then tell horror stories about gigantic war trolls clad head to toe in powerful armor, about humans capable of crushing a beastman's skull with 2 fingers, about an undead raining powerful spells upon them, and a goblin army stronger than anything the beastmen have ever seen. While the other beastmen back at home would tell them about a zombie army that they had just recently defeated. And therefore the Beastman Nation, after considering the heavy losses and the power of the enemy army, would likely turn its attention away from the Dragon Kingdom, thus giving the humans time to recover from the war. And that's how the sudden disappearance of Ainz could actually create a lasting peace in this part of the new world, and give the nations within it time to recover from the recent years of war. And with that said, I hope you have liked this video. Be sure to leave your comments and ideas down in the comment section, and as usual, I say my special thanks to Ada Daddy Ada, Bad Guy Ye, Bad Burrito 316, Beezer, Ben C, Brandon D, Chrissy, Crowley 0221, Sia, Crystal Prime, Dead Slime, Death is Mercy, Deathless Dragonlord, Demon Xenomorph 1987, Devin Downen, Ding Dong, Duckwagon, Dunkler Krieger, Dystopia, Dystopia II, Enigmatic Unicorn, Thirul Shivan, Guy with That Head, Hector Marino, Hoss, Huster, Jacob G, Jana B, Jason, J. Morris, Chromius, Kyle R, Lee K. Long, Legendarius, Lelouch Britannia Vippe Mustache, Lexus Fox, Lord Nishikian Rai, Lord Touch Me, Love Razor, Merovec, Mr. Shoes, Mr. Tweaker, Michael R, Michael Y, Nope, Oh Hell No, Normal Toad, O'Kill, Overlord General Gasper, Paddy Pantum, Personage, Primus 11, Rhinomere, Cune Karakos P, Shergox is Daddy, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Shrine Keeper, Super Tier Magic Batista Bomb, Supreme Cheese, Staris, Ted, Texas Deer, The Orc Warboss, Rag Ed Smasher, T.E. Wang, Vash Hawkeye, Vegito 27, Venture Fanatic, Wilhelm, Xenokai, and Zonagon. Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, and I hope to see you again all on my next video.